What's up guys, and welcome back to WBC Builds, and welcome to a video that has been requested for quite a while now, and that is, how do I get my building inspiration? So most of you know a lot of the buildings I actually add to the game of Minecraft are mainly based within reality. Now I get about getting this inspiration through various means and resources, but it's mainly Google Street Maps and Google Street View. End the video, you may say, but no. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you guys how I read an area of town, how I understand whether a building is Victorian, Georgian, and how I go about looking for various other buildings within towns and cities that may sort of just fall under the radar, you may never know about, or you may just find interesting. So I've got an example town to show you today, and that is the city of Winchester. Let's jump on into that with some Google Street Maps and Google Street View. So let's go. So I've come here to my first resource, that is Google Maps, along with Google Street View. I have chosen the city of Winchester because of its rich history. It's been settled for over 3,000 years. The Romans used it as quite an important site, along with the Anglo-Saxons having it as the main capital for Wessex. Speaking of history, architecture, especially when we're looking for inspiration around Victorian, Georgian, Edwardian, always leads to history. And Winchester is absolutely full of it. So when you come onto Google Maps, you can see mainly, especially in well-established towns and cities, you get this area highlighted in yellow, which shows the main shopping area, the main centre. Now, if you're looking for buildings specifically, let's say a Georgian building, this is probably the best place to start looking for it in any town. Now, we're going to go over to the satellite view so we can start getting a look at the roofs. Roofs, you say? Why are we going to be looking at roofs? Well, roofs are really interesting because there is a clear distinction in the UK between time periods when it comes to looking at roof tiles. Yes, I assure you that I'm not mad. I'm not just going to rabble on about roofs for a while, but we are going to rabble on about roofs for a little while. So if you look at these roofs, you can see two distinct colours. We have a sort of brownish colour, especially in this area around here. This is around the old medieval cathedral as well. And you can also then see a slightly darker, greyer coloured roof tile around this section here mainly. And what this is showing is the difference between slate and clay roof tiles. This is just generalisation of British history, but before the Industrial Revolution and before canals and railways were a thing, it was hard to move slate, which mainly comes from Wales, down to the rest of the UK. So you can see Winchester is down here in the middle of Hampshire, which is nowhere near Wales. Now what happened was, once canals and railways were built, it became easier to move slate and slate tiles out of Wales, meaning that roofs could be made out of them. Now you're going to ask me a question, why? How do you know they're still Victorian? Because slate roofs aren't really used in the same hipped fashion as they are here. So again, hipped roofs, what? So this is a hipped roof here. You can probably just about see behind all of this lettering. Let's have a look at this one over here. It has four sides to it. Modern day houses, if you look at these ones here, tend to be pitched. Now this is again generalization of British architecture, but what we're looking for here mainly is the Victorian and the Georgian buildings, which is obviously what I specialise in myself when I look for inspiration. So I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt that when I zoom into this building here, it is going to be a Georgian building, probably from the later part of the Georgian times, maybe 1750 onwards. And yes, I can tell you that is very much a Georgian building, which has also suffered from the window tax, which is what's going on here. Now we can already see there is a ton of inspiration along this road, and there is just even more this way as well. My mind is already starting to boggle. I'm looking at this going, well, that could be birch planks, this could be quartz down the sides here. Also, this could be even red sandstone. Ugh. Who uses red sandstone these days? But anyway, so that is one way of telling from the sky how old a building is and whether it's going to suit what you're looking for, whether it be a Georgian, Victorian or an Edwardian house. So let's say if we come over here and look at these buildings now, you can see these are clearly a lot older. They don't really follow any form. This one is probably an early Georgian house, mainly because it hasn't got 3 stories and it has a very low pitched roof. The same with this one here. This is very much an old building, and it doesn't surprise me because when you look around here, we have a bit more of a medieval architecture going on. So that's one way of looking to see whether a building is old and whether it will be worth using as inspiration, as I've done around here. Now, when it comes to towns like Winchester or anywhere else in the UK that have train stations, they tend to be built between 1825 and probably 1930. I can tell you that Winchester's train station was built in 1837, and since then the town has grown quite a bit. For that, most of the city existed down here. Now you're going to ask me a question. How do you know that? So I'm going to come on to showing you the other resource that I have at my disposal, and that is the old OS maps from the late Victorian times that the National Library of Scotland have now uploaded to be able to be used as a geo-referenced map. So if you come over here onto their website, I don't know if their website's available throughout the entirety of the world. I imagine it probably is. But if you go down to the digital resources and click on map images, you get it to a choice of like this sort of selection here. So you can do a side-by-side viewer, or you can go onto this here, which is the Geo-Referenced Maps, and it acts just like Google Maps, but for the late 19th century. I mean, look at it. It's crazy, isn't it? You zoom in, it changes its sort of ways, and somehow I found Winchester without really thinking about it. But if we go over to this side here and select OS 25-inch 1891 to 1914, it gives you a really nice high-resolution, high-detailed map of most of the country of the UK. So again, this is all centered mainly around getting inspiration from the UK. Now, if we look at Winchester here, we can see that, as I said, most of the buildings originally existed down this part over towards the east. A lot of the stuff over on the west-hand side of the railway line started to get built up over the periods. Now, let me show you another really handy feature of this, and that is the slider bar over here. And what we can do is we can slide in and out of the modern world and the Victorian world. And what that shows us is all of this area here is probably not worth looking at for inspiration at all. This area here possibly is, and I haven't seen these roads before, so I'm quite interested by them. So what you can do is, once you had a look at it from here, you get the name of the roads and you get the name of the area, jump back over onto Google Maps, zoom on in and go, ooh, I'm going to get in here and start using the street view. And then you come on down and you get a clearer picture of what those buildings it looked like, especially since you can't see them because pictures may not exist. You wouldn't know what to search for, but because they probably do still exist in the real world, you can come on over and go, ooh, and start having a little gawk at some of the old and nice inspirational buildings. I mean, look at these. These are really nice. Ignore the big blurred out image to the side there. Clearly someone doesn't want to show their house off. Now, sometimes you're lucky and you can see what that says there. If you can't, maybe you can change to a different date and it might say something. It says something there. I can't see what it says. But yeah, so that is how these two resources are really handy to be used together. But what is really nice with this as well is it gives you a glimpse of the world as it was, well, as the UK as it was in around 1910, 1912. It says here at the bottom there, Hampshire and Isle of Wight, revised in 1894, published in 1897. So this image is a snapshot of Winchester as it was over 130 years ago. So this is great and I love it. And the idea that you get all of this inspiration from here, you can even use it as actual like street plans and ideas on how you want to plan out a city. Because what happens is, once we've moved into the 21st century, a lot of the old infrastructure and old ways of life no longer exist, especially from this period. You can see these two big circles here, there's gas meters. Now these obviously don't exist anymore, but that was the main way that a town would house their gas, their natural gas, to be used as cooking or to even use to light their streets. What I'm trying to say here is, these are the sort of amenities you should be adding to your towns if you want it to feel a bit more Victorian or Edwardian. Yeah, so this is a great tool to be using because it really does give you a great idea of just how buildings have changed and how landscapes have changed over the last 100 years or so. I mean, look at this villa street here. So let's jump on into this one quickly again. But you can come on down here and see that, wow, these are some beautiful villas probably built in the later part of the Georgian period, around about the Regency period, and again, they just sit down here beautifully. So if I move on down here into the town of Southampton, you can see here that we do have the ability to look at this in 3D. So if you zoom on into places, you get a clearer image, possibly even a better image than you would get at Street View, of just how a building might look. And with this, you can start glancing around, looking at places and going, ooh, that looks nice. Zoom on in and look at it at Street View. So I think that really answers how I get inspiration. It's mainly just flying around Google Maps all day going, ooh, that's quite a nice looking building. Ooh, I wonder if that's Georgian. jumping over onto the National Library of Scotland, looking to see whether it was existing at that point in time or whether it was just not. That's where I spend a lot of my time, looking at different things, because I love history, I love architecture, I love marrying the two together in the form of stuff that I do on the channel. Now you may be asking yourself a question: how do you bring these into Minecraft? Well, I have an entire series on that I've just sort of started up. We're on episode 2 as the time of recording this video, and that is From Bricks to Blocks. Within that series, I take real life buildings, as I've shown you here, from Google Maps, from even going to look at them in real life, and I bring them into the world of Minecraft. And I give you guys an idea of how I go about doing that using just sort of the blocks we have at our disposal. But of course, the one resource that I forgot to mention is real life. There's always a chance of you going outside and looking at a building you've never seen before in your local area that suddenly inspires you to go, "Ooh, I should go build that. I really should have a go at building that." It's always worth looking up. I mean, I've done it so many times where I've missed a building I've walked past and then looked back at it on Google Street Maps and go, "Wow, I didn't know that was even there." So it is always worth, just if you are interested with any of this, having a look at what you've got locally, having a look at what you've got in your nearest town or city, and going from there. Getting some great inspiration like that will really probably spark the interest in you to look further afield. Well guys, I wanted to share this video with you just because this is how I do it, and I wanted to give you some ideas on how you may go about doing it yourself. But remember guys, get inspired, get building, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.